The moment the plate shattered and spaghetti slid across the white tablecloth like a small disaster, every head in the restaurant turned, and the female cop froze in a way she never had on duty. Sirens, suspects, chaos, those she could handle. But the sound of her own daughter crying in a bright, quiet dining room at noon broke something inside her that handcuffs never could. People often said Officer Raina Holbrook was unshakable. At 33, she wore her uniform like armor, her posture sharp, her eyes trained to spot danger before it bloomed. That afternoon, sunlight poured through tall windows of the restaurant, glinting off glassware and polished wood, making the space feel safe and ordinary. Raina had chosen this place on purpose. She wanted normal. She wanted to prove, to herself more than anyone, that she could be both a cop and a mother. But her 6-year-old daughter, Maribel, had been spiraling since the morning, overwhelmed by noise, hunger, and the unfamiliar stiffness of the room. When the plate tipped and the mess happened, Maribel's tears came fast and loud, raw with frustration she didn't know how to name. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of strangers doing the right thing, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Grandma Dearie. Stories like this only travel as far as caring hearts are willing to carry them. Raina sat rigid, hands clenched on her knees, feeling eyes on her uniform, on her daughter, on the mess. She was trained to take control, to command situations with her voice alone, yet now she felt powerless. Maribel's cries echoed in her chest, each sob a reminder of the nights Raina came home late, of the mornings she left before sunrise, of the unspoken guilt that clung to her like a second skin. She had tried parenting books, therapy appointments, gentle routines, firm boundaries. Still, moments like this made her feel like she was failing at 2/4 one job that mattered most. The restaurant hummed with low conversation again, but the tension at the table remained thick. Raina braced herself for irritation, for whispers, maybe even a manager stepping in. Instead, a young waitress named Elara Vance approached quietly, sunlight catching the green of her uniform and the calm focus in her eyes. She knelt slightly as she cleaned, her movements unhurried, careful not to startle Maribel. There was no judgment in her face, no forced smile meant to hurry things along. Just patience. Elara had worked there for years, long enough to know that spills were rarely just spills, and tears were rarely just about food. As she wiped the table, she let the child see each motion, slow and steady, as if order could be restored one gentle stroke at a time. Raina watched, confused by the absence of tension she had expected. The waitress didn't rush them, didn't scold, didn't sigh. She simply existed in the moment with them. Maribel's crying softened, her breaths hitching instead of breaking. Her eyes followed the mop, then Elara's hands, then the way the sunlight made patterns on the floor. The chaos that had felt uncontrollable minutes earlier began to loosen its grip. Raina felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest, not relief exactly, but recognition. This wasn't authority or discipline at work. This was something else entirely. Elara finished cleaning and placed a fresh plate gently on the table, along with a small napkin folded into the shape of a clumsy flower. The gesture was simple, almost invisible, yet it landed like a miracle. Maribel reached out, touching the napkin with cautious fingers, curiosity replacing distress. The room seemed to exhale. Raina realized her own breathing had been shallow, and she let herself inhale fully for the first time since sitting down. As the afternoon light shifted, Raina reflected on how often she tried to control everything, her job, her schedule, her daughter's emotions, because 3/4 control was how she survived the streets. But parenting, she was learning, didn't bend to commands or rules alone. It needed softness, presence, and sometimes help from unexpected places. Watching Elara move on to the next table, Raina felt humbled. The waitress hadn't known their story, hadn't needed to. She had simply chosen kindness. Other diners glanced over with softer expressions now, some smiling faintly, others returning to their meals. The moment that had threatened to become a public failure transformed into something quietly beautiful. Maribel began eating again, slower this time, calmer, the napkin flour tucked safely beside her plate like a tiny promise that things could be okay. Raina's eyes stung, not from embarrassment but from gratitude. She had faced danger without flinching, but this small act of compassion cut deeper, reminding her that strength wasn't always loud or commanding. Sometimes it wore a green uniform and carried a mop. Sometimes it knelt down and met a child where she was. As they left the restaurant later, the day still bright and ordinary, Raina felt lighter. The world hadn't changed, her challenges hadn't vanished, but something inside her had shifted. She understood that asking for help wasn't weakness, and that control wasn't the same as care. Maribel skipped beside her, humming softly. The storm passed. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it. Your engagement helps stories of quiet humanity reach people who may need them most. Just before we part, a special request from the heart: please comment below and share what this story made you feel, because your words matter more than you know. That day, no one remembered the spill or the noise. They remembered the feeling. A simple waitress, a struggling mother, a child finding calm in the middle of daylight.